And here we go. Here we go again. All right, so we did the press conference, so that's over. And now we have Rachel Maddow. I heard that she had a few choice words to say about this, and I'm not a big fan of the dyke. Thinking that it can get people pregnant.
My colleague Rachel Maddow, host of MS Now's The Rachel Maddow Show. Rachel, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show. You've been following this all morning. What do you make of this? It's a very, very big development in a months-long effort against Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to hear what the president has to.
She's personally somebody that would have personally called Venezuela president and warned him that Trump was coming. Get out of your house, bruh.
To say in his remarks from the White House that are planned for just a little under an hour from now. Ali, I feel like
feel like what?
In your heart of hearts, when you think about what the United States just did, I think there are very few Americans right now who have any idea why the United States did this.
What are you talking about? I think it's great. They stole our gas. That we were manufacturing fuel that was coming to America, that kept our fuel done under the Biden administration, and then we went in there, took out a dictator that didn't belong, and now we could possibly have 50%, 50-cent gas. That's what I'm saying. Trump better bring us back to the 60s. I want to see 50-cent gas, motherfucker. 50-cent gas.
If this was about drug trafficking, then why did President Trump just pardon the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of sending hundreds?
He just said why, because apparently he was being, I don't know that. I have no idea. And if he was dishing out drugs to America, then I would have to say that the Biden administration should have done the exact same fucking thing.
Hundreds of tons of drugs into the United States. If this was about something about the illegitimacy of Maduro's election, well, that's something that the U.S. is, decrying any other country policing. We just sanctioned Brazil for having tried to protect itself from a coup by its former president, Jair Bolsonaro. I mean, if it's about gangs, we had the president of El Salvador, who is believed by U.S. law enforcement to be very linked with the notorious gang MS-13, which has caused incredible damage in the hemisphere, including in the United States. He's invited into the Oval Office, and the president says that he's looking forward to sending homegrown Americans to that president's essentially, jungle concentration camps. So all of the purported explanations for what's happened here don't stand up to logical scrutiny. The president has never articulated a coherent rationale for having done this. This seems like Marco Rubio's dream, not Donald Trump's dream. So I'll be very interested to hear.
Marco Rubio, now don't quote me. His dad is either from Cuba and came here during the Kennedy assassination, or he's from Venezuela and came here during the Kennedy assassination.
What the president is able to piece together in terms of an articulable rationale for having done this. That said, he's done it, and so in the immortal words of General Colin Powell, you break it, you own it.
Yeah, we should own it. We should make it a satellite state, like I said earlier in the thing. We should make it a satellite state. They got no voting rights. They simply benefit.
And it's one thing to do that on the other side of the world. It's another thing to do that so close to home here in.
They were bringing in China's. So yeah, I'm down.
Our hemisphere, I don't know if they have any plan for what to do now that they have invaded, bombed, and removed the president of that country. But I'll be happy to hear an America First rationale for it, whatever it is.
And the administration kind of sort of laid a little bit of it out in its national security strategy that it came out with a little while ago. This whole concept, sort of a renewal of the Monroe Doctrine, that what happens in our hemisphere is our business and what happens elsewhere is someone else's business. That said, this is the interesting question. Donald Trump wanted to get...
No, you're wrong there, my guy. So I get it. What happens in our area is our business. But just like we are friends and the protectors of Japan, we must protect them from China if something bad happens because we took their weapons away. And I'd prefer to see China smashed into the ground, dude. Fuck China.
Get rid of Maduro.
Any country that treats their people like Iran, China, and Africa and Venezuela, where it used to be massively great in the 70s and massively great in Iran in the 70s. Any country that treats their people like that, makes women wear beekeeper suits, you ate and killed all the animals in the zoo. If that's the country you live in, and the people around you don't do nothing about it, it's because they're getting paid by that country in their personal pockets to allow this to happen.
In his first term, Marco Rubio, as you said, is very
Look at
determined
those
to get rid
copters
of Maduro
go.
and says that there's nothing else to happen now that they've got him. The question is what happens, because Venezuela is a tricky country, and we don't necessarily know what the plan is hereafter.
Exactly. I mean, the president in his remarks on Fox and Friends this morning, which is still just an astonishing.
You're just butthurt he didn't go on your show.
Done this before he formally addresses the nation. He called into Fox and Friends and effused about how he felt like he was watching a television show, and he was watching the feed of what was going on there, which is it's just disheartening to have a president who's that who has that.
It sounds to me that Rachel Maddow and MSNBC 13 Network is giving aid and comfort to America's enemies.
Kind of a mindset about these things. But
Trump does everything wrong in her
sort of
her eyes.
Trying to explain why this was a good thing. That in Venezuela he was essentially a dictator.
Yeah.
As if that was the justification for the United States going in there and physically removing the president of that country. I mean, nobody thinks that Maduro is a good guy or has a lot of confidence in the way that he's holding on to power. But again, the president of El Salvador calls himself, the world's coolest dictator, or whatever it is, that phrase is that he uses for himself. There's lots of countries around the world with de facto, arguable, or official dictatorships. If it is now the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine that we invade and remove the leadership of every country where that's true, it's going to be a very different term in office, and it's going to be a very different.
And this is why I put him in there. It's only sad that the FBI and the CIA aren't doing actual real work. One minute we have a federal officer for New York, right, that planted the bomb, and then they say, oh, we got some Down syndrome black dude that planted the bomb. That, in my eyes, that's just joke. That's joke work.
It's going to be a very different world than the one that America First Donald Trump ran on. I mean, the whole justification for J.D. Vance's selection onto the vice presidential ticket was supposedly his distaste for and commitment against America getting involved in regime change wars. And now here,
this ain't a regime change war. It's very simple. The American people went in there. We took care of business. We're going to hold on to it. We're going to get everything all set up and done. And then we're going to hold elections. And if Trump is smart, he'll make it a satellite state where that's what they do. 100 years down the road, we'll have normal people and none of this Somali bullshit.
J.D. Vance out tweeting about this, again, before the president speaks to the nation about it, pounding his chest about how awesome this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just whatever you thought you were buying when you bought this presidency, this was not what they had on offer.
This
is what I wanted.
The perceived illegitimacy of the Maduro government. Fair enough. The idea that he's
I want low gas prices. I want homes that are built right, that are not through $2, $3, $4, $5 million for a one-bedroom apartment. I want to live comfortably, and I want to know that if I go to another country, I'm going to be fucking safe and not kidnapped.
He's an authoritarian.
By a drug detailer.
We don't often succeed in the second part of this, the regime change part, but it's not even obvious that that's happened. For instance, we're getting reporting that the vice president of Venezuela may be in Russia at this point. But this doesn't...
In Russia, talking with Putin about getting their nukes in Venezuela.
This isn't necessarily regime change. This is the capturing of Maduro, who will be arraigned in New York and a trial. But we're not sure that we got regime change, and there's those who argue that probably shouldn't be a goal of ours anyway, because sometimes we end up getting mired. As you said, you broke it, you bought it. Venezuela is a country of 28 million people, many of whom are impoverished with out-of-control inflation. We may have just bought ourselves a big problem.
How? There's no big problem. Venezuela apparently has the biggest oil reserves, and if it's about oil, fine. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with it. It's all right. My biggest problems in America are AI videos, and people just going out there and blowing up. Like I got Suno AI, and I'm making music with the Suno. Why? Because I don't like any of the new music coming out. I think the only band for the past 4 years, or a couple singers for the last 4 years, has been Nas and Tom McDonald. That's it. Everything else is like rap is crap now. It died with Tupac and Ice Cube.
Yeah, I mean, part of the idea of the you break it, you bought it, the Pottery Barn rule problem, right? For wars that we got involved with in the Middle East and in landlocked Central Asia, was that we were setting off chains of events and generational consequences in the region that were eventually going to have.
And it's a lot better than bringing them in as refugees, lady.
A blowback throughout.
At least those people in Venezuela, when they came here, they worked with us. They didn't Somali scam the entire America system.
That region, and maybe even here. But when you're talking about our own hemisphere, once you start doing that here, I mean, we already are incredibly intertwined in terms of our fates with Central and South America. All of the Donald Trump agenda about immigration is driven at core by conditions in countries, in many cases in Central and South America,
caused by people in countries around said countries doing nothing,
that drive migration flows to this country for people.
And it should be a privilege to be around the Gulf of America,
Who are looking for a better life. Well, if we're going to start invading and removing the presidents of countries in Central and South America, that is going to...
The world will be a better place. Yes, it will.
Not exactly be a stabilizing factor in terms of what happens with migration flows, with economic integration, with gangs, with with transnational cartel behavior, with drug flows. Again, like if we felt that the Trump administration was full of the most sober, prudent technocrats in the world, right?
You would still say Trump is bad, and you'll still say Trump can't do nothing about what's going on anywhere else. And we, the Americans, should bow down to all the other fucking nations doing whatever the hell they want, because we are the bitches. And you hate America, and you are shameful, Rachel Maddow. And that's why your show has I don't know, probably no views. I know I'm not one of them. The only thing that I agreed with you, Rachel Maddow, on is one thing. During the Obama administration, when you came out and said that Barack Obama's wrong by saying he could come and arrest you and hold you with no trial, no nothing. And you were against that. That is it. But then once Trump started running, it was, oh, Hillary Clinton this, Barack Obama this, and Trump is a liar, and he's going to be weak.
If they really were the best and brightest in an unironic sense, this would be an incredibly risky thing to do. But instead, it's these guys. And, you know, if you trust the former...
No, the problem is she wasn't actually doing any of the on-ground what's going on in these countries. And people are dying and starving, and she wants them to die and starve. I mean, it's whatever, man.
Fox and Friends weekend host, who's
You're
now
just
our
mad
defense
because Fox and
secretary,
Friends has more viewers
to
than
be
you.
managing what may be an open-ended commitment here, to manage the fallout from what we have just started and apparently have set the precedent that we're willing to do anywhere.
Yep.
That's
a good
I
thing.
congratulate you. I don't think a lot of Americans, even Americans who are celebrating the end of Maduro's regime, I don't think a lot of people have a lot of confidence in the Trump administration as it's currently constituted to manage what may be a fairly wild series of consequences here.
Yeah, well, we
By
should
the
trust
way,
you.
even if you did have faith, historically, when we've gotten involved in regime change, two things can happen. You can either
There ain't been any regime change. We haven't put anyone in office. The VP of Venezuela is in office. Trump himself said it. And then the people will hold another election in Venezuela for an actual president. I would say Trump endorses or likes or however. But there's going to be, I would say, Venezuela should take the American Constitution and they should all be handed guns and rifles and everything else with the 1,000-year freaking policy of no working with dictators.
stabilize a country and a region through regime change, or you can destabilize it. More often than not, we've destabilized it. Even when sober people are in charge of the operation. You bring up an important point that people have been talking about this, or this administration has been referring to Venezuela as a source of drugs. They did the same thing with Canada. It's not entirely accurate. But more importantly, the immigration.
How you figure? Venezuela, China send the drugs all the way over to Canada, and then they manufacture the drugs in Canada, and then they come through the border because we don't have a border wall because Canada's supposed to be our friends. But then they took in a guy that does not live in Canada or never lived in Canada, wasn't born in Canada, worked for the EU, lived in those areas of the world, and then now he's in control. And he's like, oh, we're going to bring in all the Muslims.
Issue. Venezuela is so destabilized. If it becomes more destabilized, what it does is it causes.
What's it going to do? It's got no animals left in Venezuela. We're probably going to have to Noah's Ark animals there.
Colombia has seen this. Colombia is moving troops to its border because they're expecting an outflow of asylum seekers and refugees who also try and make it to.
If everything works out, there won't be any asylum seekers or refugees in Colombia. Better watch its ass too.
The United States.
Yeah. And again, like, what exactly is the rationale here for these actions? I mean, consider Brazil, right? I mean, Brazil had a sort of Trump-ish authoritarian leader in Jair Bolsonaro who tried to pull off the same kind of effort at a coup that President Trump tried on January 6th. It didn't succeed. He was prosecuted, and the U.S. has now sanctioned Brazil in punishment for having tried to protect its.
The problem was the guy that they arrested, the one that Trump, whether he's a dictator or not, I don't know too much about that, but I do know that he was elected fairly and logistically into office, and they arrested him for it.
Election system from an effort at violent overthrow. Now, if the idea is that Venezuela deserved this bombing and invasion and the removal of its president because of an unfair election there, or because of a contested election there, or because of the dictatorial rule.
You mean like the Mexican president that everybody that was running against her wind up dead? I should say Trump should be getting ready to do the same thing to Mexico.
Of Maduro, well, okay, now do Brazil. Why would we be taking completely opposite takes?
Should do Brazil.
These pretextual issues with different South American and Central American countries. How do you have the MS-13 linked president of El Salvador in the U.S. Oval Office with that, with all of the, the pledges of friendship, and us sending people from the United States into one of his presidents if the issue is gangs? How do you have the Honduran former president?
So, if you're here illegally and you're in a gang that's killing American citizens, you have no standing to be put in our prisons. We can get rid of you and send you somewhere else. But if you're an American with a birth certificate, fingerprint, and all that fun stuff, then yeah, it's our responsibility to imprison you.
President pardoned inexplicably by Donald Trump after he put some of Trump's friends on his payroll after that guy was convicted of smuggling hundreds of tons of cocaine into the United States.
Again, I know nothing about that, so if that's true, why aren't you showing the videos of that? And if that is the case, that means they went through the Mexican border or the Canadian border, or they came from the seas to come in one of those ports to bring in said drugs. So what's wrong?
I mean, none of...
You had 4 years to stop this, but you guys had caravans, people coming to America and kicking down our door.
What we have learned, I think, for multiple administrations...
What you have learned, Rachel Maddow, is very simple. You and your ilk, the Democrat Party, do everything wrong, and you guys want to be, what's that word I'm looking for? Pardoned, maybe? Or look at us, we're in the corner crying, you should feel bad. No, I don't feel bad for you at all.
For multiple bad foreign policy decisions in our country, is that when the things they are saying are the reasons for their actions are proven to not be the reasons for their actions, you have to ask yourself what it's really for.
Yeah, and you wouldn't hold no one on the Democrat side accountable.
From this president this hour.
Colonel Jack was talking to me before we started the show, and one of the points that he was making is that when pressuring a country, whether you are wanting to achieve regime change or some sort of stability, there's usually a mix of diplomatic and economic action and perhaps the threat of military action. This has been a very unusual situation. We have 15,000 troops off of the coast of Venezuela. We've got an aircraft carrier strike group. We've got F-35s in Puerto Rico. This is set up to be a very big military action. Now, Marco Rubio says that's probably done with. They've got Maduro, and I don't know whether that means the boat's all turned back. But this has not been... There was more headroom available on the diplomatic front and the economic front. And Donald Trump did say that Maduro was prepared to talk and that they were talking and that there was some possibility of a surrender. We're not quite sure how this all happened because they're talking about a capture, that they dragged him out of his bedroom. You know, there's a way this could have worked out differently.
Yes, absolutely.
What?
And again, we don't know.
Step down.
The justification.
We're coming in. We're going to come in on Wednesday.
For these tactics in particular, for this type of action, this type of raid and
early Friday night, we're coming in for you, motherfucker.
The way that we've seen it, and maybe we will get that.
Let's tell the news.
The president, we shall see. But I mean, stepping back from this a little bit, Ali, I also think, you know, I'm cognizant of what we have been talking about for the last year since Trump has been back in office, and what type of leader he appears to want to be, and he is not unique. He is not, this is not the first sort of iteration of this type of leader we have seen around the world. And one thing that we know about this type of sort of would-be strongman is that questions of legality and illegality are ones that he, that may play differently for him than they would for a non-strongman leader. For example, I think that to the extent that this can be defined in the United States as having been an illegal action, I actually think Trump will see that as a political plus, and he will lean into that. He will not care about, not only will he not care about people saying this is illegal, he'll see that as an asset, and he'll want to...
It is, and I'll tell you why, Rachel Maddow. I'll tell you why. Because this is Trump's last shot to fix everything before he gets out of office and a Democrat possibly takes over again and starts bullshitting the American people, and we all get screwed over because we allow people like you to tell us, the American people, nothing but lies. So yes, New York had their shot to elect somebody to fix their state, and they put in a socialist Muslim in a state where, whether it be the government or whether it really be hired on Muslims or whether it actually be Muslims, took our planes, slammed them into the Twin Towers, took out 2 buildings, and then took out another building, and then slammed a plane into the Pentagon. Now, whether that is government run or what, I don't know. But I do know that it was a Muslim that did it. And I'm over you because Joe Biden didn't have the balls to do anything when his bitch ass was in office. He had his people signing all his documents. And the only actual pardon that was actually signed by him was for his son. For his son. That's it. Ah. And then before Trump, it was Barack Obama bombing Americans on foreign soil where there was no war.
I think that would-be strongmen and authoritarian leaders like to start wars. They like to start wars.
We had a 20-year war with Iraq and all these other places.
I think both for ego and sense of purpose, but also because they like the expanded powers that war tends to give leaders domestically at home against their own political opponents.
Even though he says he doesn't.
He
says that's not his thing, right? He's still jockeying for that Nobel Peace Prize nomination.
Yeah.
that bastard Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize because he was the first black person in office, half-breed, and he was bombing all kinds of motherfucking places.
To get a Nobel Peace Prize when you're starting wars and invading other countries, but I suppose
Barack Obama did.
If anybody thinks he can do it, it's probably President Trump.
I mean, even the lady that won the last Nobel Peace Prize was like, "Oh, no, man, Trump should get this."
One of the things that David Rode, who's with us this morning, was pointing out is that it's not clear yet, but it does seem like congressional authorization was not sought for this.
She looks like her puppy just died, and she's no longer going to get any more benefits and money and cash out payments through Venezuela. Her Venezuela house that she had built there up in the hills is probably been torn down, and she's just so sad that she has nowhere else to go to be a dick.
Action.
Ate her.
But that's par for the course, to your point, right? Donald Trump, if he thinks a law is in his way as it relates to military action, Congress is where that law is, where you bump up against that law. So he may not be as troubled by it. But this morning we're hearing from members of Congress, we'll have some on the show, and from members of the Senate from both parties who feel that the bombing of those boats off of Venezuela was illegal, and that
because the congressmen, the Democrats, and those like Green. Those types of people that are saying you can't be bombing these boats. It's a very simple concept of what's really happening. And I'll tell you real quick, they're no longer getting their drug fix, and they're no longer being able to sell the drugs because they run the Democrat Party and a good amount of rhinos and a good amount of Republicans and probably a good amount of MAGA are running the drugs in America.
This may itself be illegal. That used to be relevant. That used to be a big conversation that would occupy a lot of our thought. Seems to just play a smaller role these days.
Yeah, two things. One is that I think a lot of previous presidents have broken those rules, and so we inherit from President George H.W. Bush and Panama, right? Like we inherit from George W. Bush in terms of his invasion, right? We inherit
what? No Barack Obama?
Presidential sense of entitlement around war powers that is totally unjustified by the Constitution. This is what I wrote my first book about. But it's something that's been eroding from.
God, bring up a book that never sold.
Whether or not we go to war, and I sincerely hope that in my lifetime we will get back to the founders' vision of who's supposed to declare war and how we're supposed to do it. But Donald Trump won't be the one to have broken that.
You're only saying that because Trump's in office, but if a Democrat gets in office, it's okay.
Second point, Ali, I really feel like what we've seen with the boat strikes and what we've seen with the president's domestic agenda is that if he had a choice to do this within the law or a choice to do it blatantly flouting the law, he would choose the latter. Because I think he thinks that makes him seem strong, and because I think he thinks that essentially doesn't just break the law in the sense of violating the law, it breaks the law in terms of its ability to constrain him in the future. And I think that this president does not feel bound by the laws established by the United States Congress, nor does he particularly feel bound by the rulings of most U.S. courts. And so...
Says you! If I had my way and you treated me like you all treat Trump, I'd have already arrested all of you sons of bitches. I would wait to do a national speech with all of you there, and I would lock the doors and y'all be going to jail. I would publicly, mind you, go through all of your records to find out where you get your millions and millions of dollars while you're sitting in the House and the Senate. I would personally go to every single state and arrest every crooked ass governor like Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom, just to name two of them, and figure out where the billions of dollars that have supposed to have gone to the American people in those states and how many illegals got that money. Oh my goodness, dude. Trump is like holding himself back. If that's what you mean, that he doesn't care about the what's that word I'm looking for, what you said, the laws in our country. He's holding himself back, because if it was me, I would have already arrested everybody.
I think that he'll see illegality
Perp walks,
as a
Trump.
plus. And he will hope that the debate domestically about what he's just done is about the constitutionality.
What? The only people that gone after and didn't care was you and yours.
Of his actions, because I think he'd proudly proclaim that he's acting outside the Constitution and hope to turn that to political capital.
He's acting within the Constitution. It clearly states that if in the Constitution that he's supposed to protect the American people. And if a country is vagantly sending drugs and killers and drug addicts and whatever and killing Americans, then it clearly is his job to take care of that situation, because again, I feel that Trump was watching Air Force One with Harrison Ford and was right at the first thing and was talking to Rubio and all the others and VP Vance saying, hey, that's pretty cool, we should do that to Venezuela. Yeah.
Capital in a sort of strongman narrative that he's so obviously
You're so choked up over this. You can't believe Trump has won, man. You are so choked up. So yeah, like, subscribe, view those comments, follow me on Twitter, X, and Rumble and Kick, and enjoy. Let's get to the next one.